Well, for those of you who have been watching any of my videos, my podcast, if you choose to call them that, I have a confession to make. I am one of, roughly 10 to 12% of people in the world who happens to be left-handed. That's right. I am born left-handed. Now, I did a little research on my family tree going, back on both sides to find out if there's anybody else left-handed in my lineage. Turns out there's not. Apparently, I'm the only one who is left-handed. None of my kids are left-handed. None of my family members. I'm the only one who's left-handed. Now, growing up, that could be a bit of a hindrance, and let me explain to you why. You see, people don't like left-handed people, and everybody in my life tried to change me from being a left-handed person to a right-handed person. Now, when I was a kid, I was in parochial school, and the nuns did not like the fact I was writing with my left hand. They had these rulers they'd carry around with them, and they kept swatting me on the hand to put my pen in my right hand. And I'd put it in my right hand and go, no, I don't like doing this. I'd move it back to my left hand. Well, ultimately, considering all the schools that I went to, eventually they just sort of left me alone. Apparently, they figured I was an anomaly, I was weird or whatever, and they let me go being left-handed. But when you go through school, all of the desks, you sit in the desk, and it has this angle thing that comes out the board and everything you write on. Well, you slide in from the left-hand side, but the way the board works on the top of the desk, well, you're right-handed. And left-handers, that's kind of hard to difficult to write on a right-handed desk. And there's also another thing I learned, that when I was writing, I was smearing everything with the bottom part of my left hand. That's because I had the hook. Yes, I'm one of those people who writes with the hook. Now, I've noticed a lot of women who are left-handed, I've observed, they don't have that hook. Whatever women do, they've turned the paper, they have done whatever they did in their lives to write natural like regular people do. And frankly, their handwriting is better than mine. Now, I do not write cursive. I quit doing that a long, long time ago. I can't tell you why. I just wasn't very good at it. And so I just print. And that's how I run my life. I'm a printer. And so I've had to live with being a left-hander all of my life. And everything else you dealt with, well, it was for right-handed people. So you adjusted. Whatever you had to deal with, they say, well, left-handed people can't use scissors. Yeah, scissors are fine. Most everything out there, left-handed, I can handle pretty well. That's not an issue. But when I joined the Air Force, one time I was at my flight surgeon's for whatever it was, and he noticed I was left-handed, and he said, did you know that roughly 1/4 of all Air Force pilots are also left-handed? And I went, really? He said, yep. He said, normally, like I said, it's around 10%. He said, with the Air Force, it's roughly 25%, maybe a little bit more. And I said, do you know why? He said, well, it turns out that right-handed people, well, when you're right-handed, you're right-handed. You do everything right-handed. Flying airplanes, you got to use both hands. You got one hand on the stick, one hand on the throttles, and if you're flying a heavy, you got one hand on the yoke and one hand on the throttles. You got to use both hands. Well, turns out that Air Force people who are left-handed, they tend to adapt better to flying airplanes because they can use both hands at the same time. Sort of like being an ambidextrous, but we're not, but we can do a lot of things both ways. Speaking of ambidextrous, on blackboards, I used to write right-handed on blackboards because, well, you can't write a left-handed because you erase everything and you got the hook anyway, so it doesn't work. But turns out a lot of left-handed people in the world. So I got to thinking, gee, how many famous people out there are left-handed? So I did a little research, and I found a list of some of the people who are left-handed who you may have heard of. Oprah. Yep, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey, left-handed. When she's cooking, she's left-hander. Now, if you want to get fancy and hoi polloi, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court, she's left-handed. And you want to get royalty? Prince William, left-handed over in England. But now, is he left-handed? Queen Victoria was, King George VI was, the Queen Mother was, even Queen Elizabeth II, and King Charles III, as well as Prince George. They're all left-handed in that royal family. Now, you can work on the lineage of that thing, how they got there. They got plenty of left-handers for whatever reason in their ancestry, but all left-handed. First man to land on the moon, walk on the moon, Neil Armstrong, also left-handed. And like I said, according to NASA, they also say that roughly a quarter of the astronauts are all left-handed. So we are what we are. Famous artist Leonardo da Vinci, left-handed. Paul McCartney, guitar player. You've seen him sometimes. He's a little bit different. He plays, well, left-handed. And but now Ringo is also left-handed, but he plays right-handed drums. Go figure. Out of history, Napoleon Bonaparte, left-handed. President Barack Obama was left-handed. So was Garfield. So was Herbert Hoover, Harry S. Truman, Jerry Ford, Ronald Reagan, even George H.W. Bush are all left-handers. And so, plenty of presidents who were left-handers. You want to get in technology? Bill Gates, left-handed. Also, Mark Zuckerberg, guy who invented Facebook, as well as Steve Jobs from Apple, all left-handed, right? Now, getting into the acting business, Charlie Chaplin was left-handed. Hugh Jackman plays on the Mystery Guys or whatever it is, X-Men, I think it is. He's left-handed. Joan of Arc, famous. See, back in those days, if you were left-handed, you were evil. That's what they figured. You were a heretic, you were evil, because when they had weapons back in those days, a person carried a weapon in their right hand. Now, when you shake hands with somebody, you didn't have your weapon in your hand. That's why people shake hands right-handed, because that way they don't have a weapon in that hand, so they can shake. Nobody's going to kill each other, except the evil left-handed people. They could shake hands right-handed, but carry the weapon left hand. They were heretics. They were dangerous. They burned them at the stake like Joan of Arc. Also, composers, Mozart. Mozart, left-handed. Here's another person, Helen Keller. Now, she was blind and deaf and everything else, but apparently she did a lot of her stuff left-handed. In sports world, Babe Ruth. Yep. Now, if you get into science, both Marie and Pierre Curie, they were both left-handers. Two doctors. You're into cartoons, Matt Groensberg from The Simpsons, left-handed. A lot of his characters, you know, are also left-handed. The artist, Michelangelo, left-handed. Aristotle, left-handed. Spike Lee, film guy, left-handed. Keep going down the list. Harpo Marx, called him Harpo because he played the harp. He couldn't read a lick of music. He couldn't read music. Played a left-handed harp, but taught himself to do music. Couldn't do it. Now, Celine Dion, My Heart Will Goes On, you know, Titanic, left-handed. The Cook, Gordon Ramsay, he's left-handed. And finally, you get Ben Stiller, Jerry Seinfeld, Tina Fey, even Richard Pryor. All of these folks are left-handed. So yes, only about 10 to 12% of America and the world are left-handed. But when you take a look at who's famous, some very, very famous people are left-handed. And now, you know.